Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, we'll be reviewing the Frex H-Pattern Plus shifter, a shifter that I've been wanting to test, well, for a very long time now. And thanks to a fellow sim racer who was nice enough to send me his newly purchased Frex shifter, we can finally put it through the SRG's review process. So, let's get to it. Now for our closer look segment for the Frex H-Pattern shifter. First off, when you get this shifter in hand, it feels very substantial. And of course, it has all aluminum construction, and that's what lends itself to be such a nice feeling unit when you have it in hand. And usually weight kind of determines, of course, it's no guarantee of how something will be as far as stiff and how robust it might be. And this weighs in at 4 pounds and 5.5 ounces. And for everyone else in the world, that would be 1.98 kilos, or we can just round off to 2 kilos. So yeah, pretty substantial feeling when you have it in hand. And of course, the first thing you do when you get a shifter out of a box is you want to shift it and play around with it. Now, some of them are so stiff, it's really hard to hold them while you're trying to shift and try them out. But this one actually is not like that. And of course, we do have a tension adjustment we'll look at in a minute. But it feels pretty good right out of the box. And it has a nice short throw to it. I make too much noise while I'm talking here. It reminds me kind of, not quite exactly, but kind of like the shifter I had on a Honda S2000 I had. It was a 2001 that had the first engine that went up to 9,000 RPMs, but the transmission in that was just like a click-click short throw, just like this, as far as the distance. And I really like that shifter. I'd like to get a car someday again that had a shifter like that. Right, so right off the bat, it feels good. I like the way it feels. Now, there is a lot of travel back and forth this way. And again, that's a feel thing. So some people might not like that at first. But of course, we can adapt to just about anything. And I think the reason it has that feel to it is it's riding on this rod here. And we'll get a better look at this once we get to our look inside segment. And this has 2 rod ends joined together. And one is on a flat plane. And of course, the one back here is straight up and down. See that? Right. So obviously, this gives us some lash or play that we're going to need when we're actually using and manipulating the shifter back and forth. It sounds like I can actually hear some springs, I think, when I'm tilting this backwards and forwards here like this. And, well, again, once we get a look inside, we'll be able to see how all that works. But yeah, as soon as you get it in your hand, it feels good. I like the knob on here. It has a nice, good ergonomic feel to it. And it looks pretty good, too. It's actually a carbon with a clear coat in it. It's a very glossy sheen to it. And it feels good. It has a good feel to it as far as getting your hand wrapped around it. But I have a small hand. Somebody with a larger hand might not agree with that. Right. Also, on the top here, we've got some knitters. How about that? This is the first custom type shifter, aftermarket shifter I've had that actually has some extra buttons on it to use extra buttons. And you can never have enough buttons, can you? So again, they didn't have to put that on there. It was nice that they did. And you can see there's a lot of bolts going on here on the top and on the bottom. Right? And yeah, that's pretty busy back here. And I'm sure that's supporting the mechanicals inside that we'll get a look at once we get it cracked open. But yeah, it is a very industrial looking unit with all these bolts and everything going on here. And of course, we have aluminum plates as far as the structure goes. We have a nice aluminum plate on the top. And that aluminum plate it's kind of joined to the other one, so I really guesstimate here. It looks like it's about a 4 millimeter plate. Yeah, it's about 4 mil. Oops, I just hit it. It's not 3, I swear it's 4. Let me get another measurement on it here. There we go. Now don't hit it. So you can see that's about a little over 4. And we also have this U channel in the front here that's doing 2 things. Obviously, it's giving support to these 2 the top and bottom plate, but it's also forming a clamping structure that we can use this clamp on. And that one is actually, looks a little thicker. Maybe it's about the same. Yeah, it's the same. I don't know why it looks thicker. So that's a 4 mil also. So it looks like a 4 mil plate all the way around here as far as the aluminum goes. And the shifter yoke, I'm calling it a yoke or tuning fork. It kind of looks like a tuning fork. It's a very nicely done machined unit here, CNC machined. Also very thick aluminum. This comes in at, yeah, that's, well, let me keep it straight here when I pull it off. There we go. So that's a little over 8 mil on the arms here. And of course, you can see it's a lot thicker right in there. So yeah, a very substantial unit. I don't think we're ever going to wear or bend this shifting lever out. And it has the bar obviously attached to the bottom that goes in. Another thing while we're on this is it's kind of an offset here. You can see on this side here we have less space between the sides of the fork of the shifter than we do over here. So I always notice things like that when I'm looking at how things are built. I'm going, well, it looks like they got a little offset there. And it probably has to do with the way this linkage is working and the shifter works all together. I'm sure there's a lot of R&D that went into this. Speaking of which, this is the basically the same design that they came up with in 2004. And it's modeled after a Porsche 962C shifter. I've never been in a 962C Porsche, so I don't know. But yeah, that's what they designed it for. And that is a rear engine, rear transmission type of configuration, obviously, as a Porsche. And yeah, I imagine it probably does feel pretty close to that, because typically those shifters don't have that crisp feel of some shifters that sit right on top of the transmission. But yeah, it's still plenty functional, and it feels a little bit differently than the H-Shifter I have from ProSim, right? Because that's more modeled of something that sits on top. But anyway, what else are we going to talk about? Let's talk about the clamp here. This clamp all the way out, let's see, let me screw that all the way out there. I believe that's almost 2 inches here. That's 1.75 inches, it looks like. I don't know how you guys can see that. But 1.75 inches, and for everybody else in the world, that's about 45 millimeters, right? And it has this foam. It's kind of a flexible, mushy foam piece here. It's not sticky. It just feels a little mushy. You can see how thick it is there. So when you put your finger on it, you can actually press down on it. And of course, this is a protection piece for whatever you're mounting this to. And yeah, so this is what it's intended to do, is mount from the front only, right? There's no facility to mount it to profile or something else. There's nothing hanging off. Although you could actually, I have a little plate here, you could probably fabricate something that, and this is just a piece I had laying around, that would be, you could actually bolt it on here, and then you would have some side holes to mount the profile or something else. So you'd have it mounted down straight like this, because I'm not sure how stiff I'm going to be able to get it using this, even though this is a very robust feeling clamping system here. So we'll see what we ended up with once we get to the mounting section. Let's see what else. The finish obviously is a carbon wrap, and you can actually feel it. You can feel the grain of it, but it is a wrap, and it has some good thickness to it. I don't know if you'll be able to tell from this corner shot here, but yeah, it does have some pretty good thickness to it there, and you can feel that. And also, these Frex logos are actually a reflective. If you hit it with light, and I just found that out by accident when it was mounted to my rig. I opened the door and some sunshine came in and hit it and just lit up when everything else was dark in here. I'm going, wow. It's just little things like that that catch you off guard. Right. We have a mechanism here for our tension adjustment, for how hard we want it to be when we shift. And let's see what else we got here. I guess that's it. These two side plates is probably how we're going to access the internals and see how it works inside. Anything else? Of course, we got the USB cable here, which means there is a USB board in here converting all the signals from the switches and the shifter to a USB signal. So you just plug it directly into your PC and you're ready to go. Anything else we want to look at here? I think that's about it. Yeah, this unit goes for, the price is 49,800 yen. I know that sounds like a lot, but really in translation it comes out to about $460 plus shipping. And they also make another piece to this. If you have their pedals, they actually have a cable that you can, and I'll show you a shot of it. This is a cable that goes into the mechanism internally to the shifter and goes over to the clutch pedal on their pedal set. And what that does is it's a gear lockout. So if you don't have the clutch pedal pushed in a certain amount, and I believe that's adjustable how far the throw on the pedal is, but if you don't have it pressed all the way in, depending on that adjustment, it will not shift. So that's a cool little gear lockout mechanism you actually get. So yeah, Frex is really doing some really great stuff down there in Japan. I've always admired looking at this, and I've always wanted to get my hands on one to test and see how they do it. And finally, we have one. So what we'll do well, yeah, we're going to do something to it, but what we'll do next is get to the look inside segment and see how this is working. All right, time to do our look inside segment. Now, what we're going to have to do is pull these side plates off to get a look at what's going on as far as the mechanicals of this shifter. And yeah, we've got 2 bolts on each side on the back holding these plates on, and we have 2 Phillips screws on the front. And we need to make sure we're loose on the bolts on one side of these, the top plate or the bottom plate, because they're squeezing these plates together. So, and that's on purpose, so that it has a nice structural integrity factor by squeezing everything together. So what we'll do first is take out the Phillips screws in the front, and I got a Phillips screwdriver for that. Let's go ahead and get those out. Now these have the Phillips heads that are known over here in North America. If you work on motorcycles like Suzuki's or Yamahas or something like that, Hondas, yeah, these little Phillips heads on these screws are what we call the Japanese Phillips head. There's a technical name for it too. And the reason is we're familiar with these because they're easy to strip out when they're really applied with Loctite and stuff on motorcycles. And yeah, you need to get a good screwdriver, and this is a vessel that's made for these kind of screw heads. Actually, it's got these little teeth on the edges of the Phillips head grooves that help facilitate locking into that thing and taking it out. So anyway, but these came out easy. It's not a problem with these. Right. So what we're going to do now is take out the back ones, and all 3 of these are easy access. One not so much, because you can see that this one over here, because of the offset on the shifter, you can see it's actually shifted this way. It's kind of covering this one over here. But we've got a ball head, got a ball head 5mm driver here that's going to help us take care of that. And we're going to make sure that all our bolts are loose on the top plate, because we're going to have to loosen this thing to be able to get this off. There we go. All right, I think I already got these loose, yeah. Yeah, these are all loose. Good deal. I try to prepare ahead of time sometimes for some of this stuff, because I knew that this plate was going to have to, one of these plates is going to have to be loose to get the side plates off. All right, so let's go ahead and pull these 5mm back bolts out, or screws. And these are some steel screws that are 6mm with a 5mm head on them, and they do have a washer and a lock washer set up on them. See if we get some focus there. There you go. You can see the lock washer there. So we'll go ahead and pull this one over here off. Set it aside, and it should give us access to this cover here. So I'm just going to try to grab it from the back here. There we go. Yeah. And kind of wiggle it to get the front to come loose. There we go. All right. And you can see that it is obviously an aluminum plate on the inside there. Set that over here. And we'll go ahead and pull the other 2 bolts off. I'll save the easy one for last on that side. And again, this is where these ball head wrenches pay off, because yeah, I got to come in at a bit of an angle here because of where this shifter lever is. But no sweat when you have one of these. You can see the angle I have to hit it at. But yeah, not a problem. It's great to have the right tool for the right job. All right. And one last screw over here. And it should, oh yeah, it came right off. Awesome. So this one's coming off even easier. Here we go. And again, the same thing, aluminum plate that's got the bend on both sides to facilitate the attachment points. Right. So let's see how this thing is working. All right. So first off, we've got the shaft that's attached to the shifter back here. And I'm not sure why it's offset, but I'm sure the designers had a reason to do that. But this is I believe it's a steel shaft. Nope, actually that's an aluminum shaft. All right, because my magnet's not sticking to it. So that's an aluminum shaft going all the way through, right? And the first thing we can see up here on the top, and that's where the screw is, we saw in the closer look, that's actually the adjustment for the tension on the shifter. So based on how tight we have that is going to be how hard or easy it is to manipulate the shifter rod back and forth. Actually, before I do that, let me let me go ahead and snug these back down just a little bit, because yeah, if I'm going to be shifting this and showing you guys how it works, we don't want this top flopping around, because it actually adds to the structural integrity of the whole shifter unit. And now that we have the sides off, we're actually making it weaker. All right, And not only that, but this bolt here, right on the top, and its companion bolt on the other side, is actually holding that bracket right there. That's holding the USB port and also a bushing in it that's guiding that shifter rod. So there we go. So if I adjust this obviously further down, it has a ball bearing. I don't know how well you're going to see that, but there's a ball bearing right there. That obviously there's a spring behind it, and yeah, if we tighten it down, it tightens the spring down rather, and it makes it harder to shift or easier to shift, whatever you want to do. And this is about the right feel for me, I think. I don't have any problem with how easy this shifts. Right. So let's go ahead and look at the shaft again. And it has, again, this is a bushing up here that's capturing the front of it. And you can see it actually moves back and forth as we're shifting. And you see it almost hit the front of the plate there. So it's the perfect length, obviously, so it doesn't interfere with anything. Now we have these steel collars. I believe those are steel. Yep. So we've got some steel collars in here, which are used a lot in the industry to attach things to a round shaft or rod. And they have some grub screws in there that actually, you can tighten down those grub screws and they clinch onto the shaft. Looks like it only has one there. And he's using this, or whoever built this, whoever designed this, is using this to actually capture the lever. Let me turn this around, see a little better. Now we get those wires out of the way. There we go. So it captures this lever here, and that lever, I can say lever, I think. That lever is actually going through the H pattern gate there. So you can see the pattern there in the gate. And you can see it's some pretty good spacing there. And I don't know how well you can see it from there, but the actual gates do have a rolled off profile to them. I don't know how well that's going to show up because I can't get my light just where I want it. But anyway, they had kind of rolled off to facilitate the shifting. We'll have to see how that shows up in the video. Speaking of shifting, let's go ahead and shift, and I'm going to push it over to you guys. First off, before I do that, you can notice there's 4 buttons right there, right? And 4 buttons on the other side. So that's how it's registering the shifts. This lever obviously is going to be hitting those, and let's see if we can get one to go in here. There we go. So the lever goes over and hits that. It's a momentary switch, so we know what gear we're in, right? Because we're mapping it, obviously, in the game to which button is which gear. And yeah, I like the way this is done, because it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to do any maintenance on it if the need should ever occur. One of these switches go bad, we can actually just pull that. See that nut right there? Oops, going backwards. Get the nut right there. You loosen that up or take that off, this whole switch will slide out of this plate, right? So then we're just a matter of unsoldering the leads on it, and then soldering the exact wires back in the same position, and then bolting it back in. We're good to go. So I do like that as far as ease of maintenance, because this shifter does come from Japan. That's where you have to buy it from, and you don't have to send it all the way back there if just a switch has gone bad, or a USB board. Like back there, the USB board, that seems to be easily replaced. So I like the design as far as that's concerned. Right. So again, if we're shifting forward, it's going to go into the other gate like that. And again, we're hitting the other switch. So actually, it's a pretty clever design here. I like what they've done here. Now, this gate is made of aluminum. So, or, it might, it's stainless. That's what that is. I can feel it. Stainless steel doesn't stick very well, but it will stick a little bit. Well, now we know this plate is aluminum, so we know that's not attracting it. So yeah, you can see it's actually sticking to it. So that's a stainless steel plate, probably a hardened plate, I would imagine, so that this doesn't wear. It takes a long time to wear it out, in other words. So yeah, I like the look of that. I like that this is stainless. If it was aluminum, it probably wouldn't last very long. And I'm sure this is that's a steel rod right there. That's pretty hard. Okay, so all this is steel right in here, and of course this is stainless steel. So that should give us a long life as far as the cycles that we're shifting on this thing. I think this will definitely do a long, rather, life cycle the way it's built. And we've got 4 bolts holding this plate. You can see on the bottom there. Beefy bolts holding it to the bottom aluminum plate. I like what I'm seeing here as far as the build here. This, I was wondering, I've been looking at this for years on the internet, and I've never really seen the inside of it. And I was wondering just, how durable it looked, because the way the shifter was moving around, the way it does, all this travel it has, I was just, I always wondered how it was built and, whether it would last or not. But I think now that I'm looking at it, yeah, the confidence is definitely there for a long-lasting product. Now, also on the back here, let's go ahead and get this out of gear. You can see that we have 2 springs, and again, another steel collar right there, right? And they're capturing these 2 springs. Now, the springs are kind of free floating on the bottom there. I discovered this while I was messing around with it. See, I can actually turn that a little bit, which is a good thing because it is a spring. And again, the attachment points look good. There's just steel bolts into a steel collar. Obviously, it's a steel spring. And yeah, I like it. It's very, it looks like it's built to last. And yeah, when you're manipulating this, you can see how far those springs move. But you can see how much movement we get in this shifter, especially when we're going from all the way to go over to get reversed, or if we're coming all the way over to get first or second. It's a bit of a throw there, okay? It's not so much of a throw when we go like from fifth, there's fifth, and if I come back to fourth, there's fourth. It doesn't move that much as far as laterally, but when I come up to get second or first, you see how much difference that moves to go over there and get those gears, right? And that's just the design of it. So, and it seems to work well. I've actually driven a little bit on it, and yeah, I'm actually liking it. I wasn't sure if I would or not. So, yeah, these plates here, again, those are also stainless steel. The plate that's up here that has the bushing in that's guiding the rod, which is also very nice. I like to see that. And there is a bushing. I'm not sure what it's made of. You can see it back there in the back. That's in this plate, which is also stainless steel. All right, so all the wear points, or where we're really going to be pushing against and banging against, are all stainless steel parts, which is great. And aluminum, where you don't have to use your stainless steel, like in obviously the casing here, and the big yoke here for the shifter. Oh, there goes my wrench. So, what else do we want to see in here? I think that's about it. We got the USB board here. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at that. And there's no real branding on this USB board, so yeah, I don't know if it's an in-house type of board that they make there at Frex, or just order it and use it, because I don't see, there's probably some markings on here. It's just not easy to see because of all these wires going in here. And they're connecting the wires together. There's a ground connection right there that has several ground wires in it. And this is a commonly used crimp type of connector here that, yeah, I don't have any problem with that. So, anything else we want to see yet? I think that's it. Of course, we got the buttons on top, our knitters, right? So, yeah. Again, it's kind of neat that they actually put some buttons on there. And I like that it kind of adds to, instead of just having a flat plate with nothing going on top, except for our tension adjustment. Yeah, we got some buttons here. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of growing. When I first saw it, I thought it was just gimmicky. But yeah, the more buttons, the better, I think. Right, so that's what it looks like inside. So you guys can draw your own conclusions based on what we have seen here. And of course, that's what we do here in the SRG review process. Try to show you as much as we can so that you can make at least the most informed decision that you possibly can without having it in your hand on whether or not you think you might want something like this. Right. Yeah, I guess that's about it. So what we're going to do, obviously, is put the covers back on, get everything tightened back up. We don't want to miss any bolts. Make sure everything's snug back up nicely. And then what we're going to do is, yeah, the next segment will be the mounting considerations that we're going to have for getting this mounted solidly to our rig. Let's talk about some of the mounting considerations for this shifter. First off, there's probably going to be most people using this clamp on their desk or wherever they want to mount it at. It's a very good clamp. It's very solid. I've actually clamped it to something already and it did a good job. But in fact, this is how I'm going to be actually using the front clamp to mount it to my rig, because the bottom doesn't lend itself well to mounting it like flat on a piece of profile or something. What I mean by that is, a little wood block here so I can keep this in the air. All right, there we go. There's a lot of bolts here, a lot of heads sticking out, bolt heads. And what I was typically do is mount my shifters on a piece of profile going straight like this, and then I'll have a couple of pieces crossing that here and here. And then you can actually bolt this shifter to either side. Or you can mount this way. So you have these crossing pieces are on the bottom and the parallel pieces running along the shifter on top, and you can mount it that way. right? And just as long as you have a plate that extends past the shifter. And this is just a like scrap piece that I had, and I use it for a demonstration here. So I could actually mount this and have enough room on the side here that doesn't interfere with the shifter, and just run a couple of screws here and here if the profiles are running this way. Or the same thing if they were running this way. Now if they're running this way, of course I have considerations for the spacing between this, right? So I'd have to make some kind of accommodation to make this work. I would actually take this bolt, this 6mm bolt that they're using to hold an internal bracket. I'd probably take that out and then put the plate on with a hole that will accommodate that bolt. But then I would counterbore the plate itself so I could run a flathead in there so it would be flat and would not obstruct anything. So then we'd have a flat bolt here. And that would be more range as far as mounting it to 2 pieces of profile, because this won't interfere anymore. Like I said, mounting it on the bottom is not something simple to do. And if I was going to keep this, and this is actually on loan to me, by the way, if this was going to be my shifter and I was going to mount it, I probably would go ahead and do something with an aluminum plate, 1/8 inch, 3/16, maybe 1/4 inch, and yeah, just drill some holes and fabricate it so it would work, and have some wings sticking out the sides so I could mount it that way. And again, do the trick with the little bolt there. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to be mounting, like a lot of people do, to the uprights. It'll be a face like this on the P1 rig that I'm using over here. And then I'm going to mount a piece like this to the front face of it, right? And like I said before, some guys I've actually seen have drilled a hole in this plate, unless I'm not sure if it came that way previously, but yeah, you could drill a hole here and put an L bracket, but a 10 series, a 40 series wouldn't fit. It's just too wide. And maybe take this out and use that hole that's in there. And actually, this is actually a threaded piece here. You see this piece here? If you run this up, you can see that this is actually pressed into the aluminum, and that's a threaded insert. So you could use that, I suppose, or you might even have to take that out and just use the hole. And then put another L bracket as the point. So you got an L bracket here, you got an L bracket or corner bracket here. And then you're sticking it straight into the profile like this, without the cable being in the way, of course. And that's another consideration too, is this cable. Now it will drop down, and that's good that they've done this, so it can drop down past the front of this face so it won't interfere with anything. But the way I'm going to do it is end up with the profile in here like this, right? And then let's flip it around this way because I've already messed it up that way. I'll explain what messed up means in a second. And so it'll be mounted like this, right? So I can have a corner bracket on this side of the upright. I can have a corner bracket on the other side, and I can even put one, I believe I have enough room because of the way this profile, I'm using a 4080 series, so it's kicking it out. So I could actually put one underneath to prevent any of this. So we'll have one on each side preventing the twisting motion, and then we'll have one on the bottom, and you can even put one on the top, whatever you wanted to do, and then that would prevent any this type of motion. But I won't know how much I'm going to need until, like so many things, we get it over there and get it mounted, right? Now, another consideration if you're mounting this to colored profile or nice black profile like this, that you're going to mar it up. In fact, that's why I use this again, because I'm going to show you guys that. Here's the imprint that disc is using, or leaving rather, the disc that we're using is leaving. And yeah, this piece is pretty clean, and I'd rather not have that happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm thinking I'm just going to run a little strip of wood. I got a lot of scraps of wood and plastic and whatever, cardboard or whatever, and put that in there and then tighten down on that, because this metal ring here, and this is steel, right? This is not aluminum, that's steel, so it's definitely going to bite into the profile a bit. But you can see it actually moves around, so it's free floating, independent of the nuts. I was turning the nuts there too, but yeah, this thing just turns independent of the nuts. So that's good, because once it gets tight up against the profile and you're turning it, this will stay put, but it's still going to crush into the aluminum. So again, just something I'm considering because of the situation I'm in for mounting this. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go over to the uprights, and I'm going to use this piece instead of this piece I believe. Yeah, I have to use this piece because it's wider. This one's not quite wide enough, but I use it for an example. And it's going to be, like I said before, we're just going to have it ended up sitting in here like this. Then I'll have I think I'm at least going to put a corner bracket in the bottom, and then I'll have one on each side. And that'll prevent any of the twisting action. And this is a very, like I said before, very, very stiff feeling clamp here. I don't think we'll have any problems getting that clamp tight enough to hold it. Even though I'm not crazy about just having one mounting point if you're really going to be thrashing on a shifter. And, you know, maybe I won't have to do that with this one. I tend to be a little rough on stuff when I'm using it. Right, so that's what we're going to do. And what we'll do next is get it mounted, get everything set up, have it mounted, then we'll go over there to the rig and take a look and, yeah, see how it turned out. Here you can see that I have the shifter mounted to that 4080 series profile, and I'm just kind of run around here and show you different angles of this. The profile is mounted to the upright here that's supporting the motor bracket, and you can see I have two corner brackets on either side of that profile. And if I go down lower here, you can see that I've actually got another corner bracket underneath. So that's three of them supporting that piece of profile, so you know that is stiff. And over here, remember I was talking about preventing the anodization on this black piece from getting marred up? Well, I decided to use one of my old plastic credit cards, one of those fake ones they send you in the mail trying to get you to sign on to their credit card. So they do come in handy. I always keep a stack of those in one of my drawers. Right, so we have it clamped down tightly, and yeah, it's sitting where I need it to sit. I could use a little bit more forward movement here, and I could probably get away with going with a single profile, but it's not that sensitive. It's almost in my sweet spot, so it's good enough for me to actually get in and see what it feels like. And yeah, the reach is not a problem, but in fact, let me go ahead and get in, put this one down. Let me go ahead and climb into this if I can without causing any problems. All right. So yeah, this is how I'm sitting. This is my reach on the shifter, and you can see that those two springs that are mounted to that collar that's on this main shaft here are keeping everything centered. So it's kind of it looks floppy, but it doesn't feel floppy. It might look that way in the video, but it's not. And yeah, the shifting is very, very easy with this. This is, I mean, you could look at that. It's just finger shifting. Of course, I won't be finger shifting when I'm actually doing my shifting, but yeah. This is something that doesn't take a lot of pressure, and you don't have to muscle it at all. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And then we can go all the way over and get reverse. So yeah, I'm actually liking this. I like how it's right where I need it to be in my sitting position, and you'll see that when I'm actually doing the driving shots. We'll have a bigger shot of me when I'm actually driving it. But yeah, I'm kind of liking this. It doesn't really take much movement at all. Again, it reminds me of the shifter I had in my 2001 Honda S2000, and yeah, or a Mazda Miata is very similar. And yeah, I really like that short throw shifter. This is actually growing on me, and I haven't even used it on it yet. So even though, again, this mounting system here that I have, I would change this. I would have a piece of profile running here, and I would fabricate a bracket for the bottom of this so I could have some wings sitting outside of that, so I could bolt it there, because I think that would be a more solid mount than this. This is solid, and here's the thing, it's all relative, I suppose, because you don't need a lot of force shifting this shifter, right? I'm not using much at all. I don't know how much you can see in the video of this shifter moving, but I can actually take it and move it like this, because it is a clamp, right? So I can actually move it a little bit like this, right? But that's lateral, and I'm not putting any lateral pressure on this. Any lateral movement is very easy anyway. I mean, I can just push it with my little finger if I need to. See how easy that is? So yeah, there's not a lot of pressure being required for this shifter. And the gates feel very good. Yeah, like I said, and you can see it does move a little bit when I'm shifting it up and down. But again, that's because of this clamp system. If I had it mounted the way I would want it mounted, if it was going to be my H-shifter of choice, then yeah, I would have it would be rock solid when I had it mounted. But anyway, this is fine for just using an H-pattern shifter, though. I don't think anybody's really, once you're actually driving, you're not really going to notice you know, if there's any kind of upward movement when you're making your shift. Like if I'm doing it hard, you can see it's actually moving a little bit there. But you really, once you're driving, you got one hand on the wheel, you're really not going to notice that, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's going to be just fine. So what we'll do next, without further ado, let's get in this thing and drive it and see how it performs. So here we are in iRacing in the Lotus 79 at one of my favorite tracks, Sebring, and my favorite car for testing H-pattern shifters. Right, so the first thing I noticed while driving it, and I mentioned it throughout this review, I think, that, yeah, this is a short throw shifter. And I really like the click-click throw of it. And you really don't realize how short it is compared to if you use some other H-pattern shifter like a Fanatic or a Thrustmaster or even my ProSim. It has a longer throw in it too. And yeah, it felt very comfortable. It was easy to throw the shifts. I mean, you don't have to have much pressure on the knob at all. It moves very easily and very precisely once you learn the pattern. And yeah, learning the pattern is everything on this shifter because there is kind of a lot of lateral movement in that pattern when you're making your shifts. It's not a real tight pattern. And yeah, you can see when I'm going through like 4 or 5 gears here that, yeah, it goes through really nice. I like the way the lever that is connected to the steel collar connected to the shifter rod goes in and out of the gates. It feels very solid when you make your shift, and I banged on it a bit too here and there. And it you know, it didn't complain. It kept on going. I wasn't trying to hurt it, but sometimes in the heat of trying to get some downshift done, I tend to kind of slam it a little bit. But anyway, it survived a couple of hours of this, and you know, so that proves to me that it's not something that's going to fall apart right away if you're really banging on it. And yeah, the pattern here is the only thing that it took a little while for me to get used to, and it's just a matter of muscle memory, is it's kind of a long left move to get second gear. You saw second gear right there. It's a shorter move to go right from fifth to fourth to third as far as the left movement of it when you're downshifting. But it's a longer throw. Once you get to third and you're coming down the second, you really got to bring it over. And it took me a little while to get used to that. In fact, if you watch closely in some of this driving footage here, you'll see when I go down the second, I grab second, but it just kind of, I'm just short of having it far enough left to grab second. But then again, I just put more pressure on it and it goes right in. So again, that's just something that you have to get used to. And any new H-pattern shifter that you bolt to your rig, you're going to have to spend some time with it to get used to every little idiosyncrasy or little things that you're not used to if you've been using another H-pattern shifter. Anyway, yeah, it's just a nice shifter. I'm surprised at just how precise this feels, even with that much lateral movement. And as you can see when I demonstrated it before, how much it goes from over in the first and second gate all the way over to the fifth and sixth gate. There's a lot of movement there. But again, this shifter is supposed to be replicating that Porsche and the 926C, I believe it was, or 962C. Anyway, that's the gearbox they were going for when they designed this particular shifter. And I can say that, yeah, if they've ever been in one, I'm sure this is very close to it, because it just feels, it's completely different than like the ProSim or the Thrustmaster or the like a Fanatic, the 1.5 shifter they have, their latest one. It just feels completely different than any of those, which is nice. It's nice to use something a little different every once in a while. And yeah, so yeah, I think that I will definitely say that this is the second best H-pattern shifter that I've ever had in the SRG to try. And yeah, for $460, if you're looking for an H-pattern shifter, this might be where you want to land, because the next move up in H-pattern shifters is a very, very large step indeed up to the ProSim H-pattern shifter as far as cost. And of course, you know, it's obviously built like a tank too. Unlike this one, it's built well, but it's not built anywhere near to the specifications or the quality of the, you know, the tank-like feel that you get out of a ProSim. But like I said, if you need a good H-pattern shifter, it's just a matter of getting this H-pattern shifter situated where you need it. I would still like it to be able to mount this firmly flat, like I must have said this 10 times during this review. You guys are getting tired of hearing it, but yeah, I think that it really lends itself well to being mounted solidly on something instead of just being mounted on the front. Even though, as you see in this video, I really didn't have any problems. It doesn't move that much. You really have to look at it. There is a little bounce in it when I'm upshifting, but yeah, it's really not noticeable when you're doing your shifting, but you can definitely see it in the video. It's moving a bit. But I think we could cure that by mounting it from the bottom. Right. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a great little shifter here. I think, again, for the price point that it comes in at, if you're looking at a good little H-pattern shifter, then you might want to give this a good look. But I had a lot of fun using it, and I'm kind of going to hate to see it go, because it's nice to have different types of shifters to get into different cars with. It's just a little bit more fun than using the same one all the time. So anyway, I'll go ahead and let you guys watch me drive a little bit more before we bounce over to the final thoughts. You know, you can watch this if you want. If not, I'll see you over there in the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the Frex H-Pattern shifter. I've had my eye on this shifter for a few years now, and finally, thanks to a fellow sim racer who was kind enough to send me his, we can put it through the SRG's review process. Now, according to the Frex website, this shifter is modeled after the one in a Porsche 962C race car. It has a short throw that reminds me of my old 2001 Honda S2000 shifter. It also has a very nice engagement when pushed into the selected gate, creating a satisfying tactile click. It does not take much effort to make shifts here, and you do have some tuning capability when using the shifter by using its friction adjustment screw to dial your own preferred resistance. Due to its all-metal construction, the body of this unit has a nice solid feel to it. I think Frex made some good choices here as to where to use aluminum and where to use stainless steel. The stainless steel bits located at key wear areas encountered when making the shifts. Frex also paid attention to the details when designing the shifter. Things like the curved ramps milled into the shifter's stainless steel gate plate, which helps give the shifter a smooth feeling action. In the look inside segment, we saw what looks to be parts that should be easily replaced if the need should arise. I think the way the momentary buttons are used to signal shifts are again a part that would not be difficult to replace if you needed to. After using this shifter for a few days, I've become, well, rather fond of it. Now, there is an irregular spacing between the gates here, with the distance between the gates 1 and 2 further away from the gates 3 and 4 than gates 5 and 6 are. Say that fast 3 times. But not anything really to hinder the shifts once your muscle memory has properly adapted to it. The side travel or side-to-side travel between the gates is more than most I've used. Still, smooth and precise gate engagement makes you forget it's there. But nothing is perfect, and the one area I would like to see an improvement would be the available options for mounting it. Now, don't get me wrong, the front mount here does do its job, but I think having an optional plate that you could mount to the bottom, allowing attachment holes along the side of that bottom, would improve the overall performance and feel of this shifter. Overall, I think the $460 price tag for this shifter is justified in the build quality and performance we've seen in this review. And I think I would feel confident in saying this is the second best H-pattern shifter that has been through the SRG's review process to date. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.